All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Trader's Crib this wonderful, marvelous Sunday evening, April 7th, 2024. We are here today to do our Sunday school charting and trade setups where we will look at the chart. We'll go over various tickers across the stock market, futures, and Forex tonight. And we will look for the next best trades for us moving into this new trading week. All right. We have about an hour until the futures market and Forex market come on for us. And in that time, we'll do a little bit of mindset, a little bit of review of what happened last week. That's going to help prepare us for our setups. And then we'll get into the charting. You guys are looking at my screen right now, can see that I have side by side a preview of what the S&P 500 futures chart should look like by the end of tonight's call, next to a very naked daily SPY chart with no lines yet to be charted. We will do that together. Okay. So welcome again, everyone. I hope you guys had a blessed weekend. To start us off, I want to let you guys note of what has been put in the chat about a solar eclipse tomorrow. Okay. You guys know me, I'm very astrology heavy. And it is going to be one of those kind of total solar eclipses events. A link has been dropped in the chat for you all to review. All right. And a lot of interesting things may come about. You never know when it comes to eclipses, okay? Especially in 2024 and social media. Just don't be surprised. All right. Don't be surprised. We had a ship run into a bridge in Baltimore. Conspiracy, I think not. Just truth will be revealed. All right. And your mama's birthday. Oh Lord, Jacinia. And that's right on time. Okay. Wow. Wow. We're gonna have to talk about that offline. Oh Lord. Oh, oh Lord. Don't get me started. Don't get me started. Okay. So just to put that on you guys' brains for those of you may be interested. Total eclipse tomorrow. All right. Moving on from that, let's get into Robert Greene today for April 7th, right? Do not be the court cynic. Do not be the court cynic. Cynic, excuse me. Express admiration for the good work of others. If you constantly criticize your equals or subordinates, some of that criticism will rub off on you, hovering over you like a gray cloud wherever you go. People will groan at each new cynical comment, and you will irritate them. By expressing modest admiration, for other people's achievements, you paradoxically call attention to your own. The Daily Law states the ability to express wonder and amazement and seem like you mean it is a rare and dying talent, but one still greatly valued. All right. And that's from his 48 Laws of Power, Law 24, Play the Perfect Courtier. And so, you know, in trading, I would say this to me resonated to more of the internal battle that we play. Now, I do think you need to assess your relationships with others, because if you are a cynical person and making critical comments all the time, right? That's going to rub off on you and how you talk to yourself and your beliefs in your trading. I'll tell you that right now. Okay. Your how comment others, how do you view yourself, right? And so trading becomes a very personal game, becomes a very you against you game, right? And because it's a you against you game, to help you assess you in some maybe the areas that you may not see, use the relationships to the closest ones around you to help you analyze and see, well, am I doing this because of them or am I doing this because of me? And which one is easier to change, them or me? I choose me. I'm a lot easier to I can train myself. I can't control other people, right? So I think that's the biggest thing that we want to take from Robert Greene there in order to better our trading. Okay. Looking at a few fundamentals for the weekend that came up over the weekend. I'll pull it up for you guys. Doesn't want to use most of our time for charting. Looking at Forex Factory first and foremost. Upcoming this week, we will not meet on tomorrow and Tuesday, okay, for my subscribe live study group traders, live day traders. We will not meet Monday and Tuesday. We will be in on Wednesday. That's when we have our core CPI data coming in at 8:30, pre-market news with the FOMC meeting minutes coming in at 2 p.m. that afternoon, right? And the minutes just confirm what we already know. So we should most likely see a continuation of wherever the market is trending for the week. Thursday, we'll wrap up Thursday and Friday with core PPI and unemployment claims with Friday preliminary University of Michigan consumer sentiment, right? So a little bit of a slow week, more towards the end of the week is when we'll pick up speed as far as red folders, and we have to see how those red folders will go. Moving on to CNBC, all right. We did close, pretty high, ran down, ran up. It was a pretty interesting Friday, okay, last week. We'll go over it in the charts. But scrolling down here to look at the headlines, it is Disney, all eyes on Disney. Disney parks are at its top, a moneymaker, and it plans to spend $60 billion to keep it that way. I am not surprised. On Disney's Mandalorian, Grogu, Toy Story 5, Tron coming to theaters. I know that they had just came out with a Tron ride not too long ago. I almost wanted to bring my happy behind back with my child just to ride the Tron ride, even though my children know nothing about the Tron ride. I don't care. They're going to learn today because mama want to ride the Tron ride. That's how I feel about it. I enjoy Disney World way more than my child. And that's the way it goes for most adults. Disney's great. And then, the Star Wars area, they can do so much more with Star Wars, and they probably will with The Mandalorian. And then there's just so much potential because I already know they're doing an Incredibles ride. Don't put it Incredibles ride. I'm all day, all day. Who didn't like the Incredibles? If you didn't like the Incredibles, go back and watch the Incredibles. Great family Pixar movie. So that's all I'm saying. I already saw the construction works on Disney's grounds the last time we were at Disney World. So this headline does not surprise me. All right, as a Floridian here in Florida. Okay. All right. Moving on from that, I'm off my soapbox on Disney. Other headline news, Oracle Larry Ellison thinks every government will want to build a sovereign AI cloud in the future. Okay, we'll keep note on AI. And Southwest Boeing 737 lost engine covered during takeoff. Well, that's another probably plummet to Boeing. Their planes constantly. Oh man, we're just gonna leave that there. Other than that, I don't have anything else to add from CNBC. Benzinga, I can refresh just in case it's updated again, and it did. Apple robot could someday make it to consumers' living room, says Gurman as okay, I don't know if this is a hype to get Apple stock to try to come back the other way, but Apple's the chart just looks trifling. So right now, nothing in the headlines can really make me feel all warm and fuzzy about Apple right now. I'm still on this somebody can hold it while I kick vibe with Apple. So I really needed to see. I don't want to hear this someday, make it like hopeful dreams. And you just, blowing air. Yeah, I just know. So we're just gonna, I just need to see more. And 9 to 5 Mac would be my resource for all things Apple, all things Intratech, if you want to keep the eye or like fundamentals and news that'll help you better trade. Apple will probably be 9 to 5 Mac. And what potentially going on there. It could be a lot of stuff and junk in there. So please check the articles wisely, but that is the source, a good source for things to come with Apple, especially things that are going to get leaked, like things that get leaked with Apple. 9 to 5 Mac is a great source for that. All right. Does anybody else have any other news they want to share with the group this evening? Let's see. Maybe it's why they call. Let me look at the. Okay, y'all being funny in the group. Hold on, let me scroll up. I done missed a lot. Okay. Oh, it's Jean's son's birthday. Oh, look at all this going on with the um eclipse. All religious books speak about the words being spells. That's how I'll put it. Yeah, yep. They'll act about spelling. That's true. That's why they call it that. And you got a little insight about Oracle. All right. Would you like to share Jacinia on Oracle that you are probably the only one that has the magic on this stock because that's the other one I want to hold while somebody hold while I kick. I think I took it off my watch list. And of course, we'll be clearing the chart today. Um, okay, got it. Uh, on week calls. So we can start with the ES, of course, clear charts, and let's get our analysis. If nobody has anything else to share, we want to get into it. We'll always take a little peek at the monthly view, okay? Uh, If you are using some monthly lines, you didn't remove your monthly lines, that's perfectly fine. I don't blame you because they don't really move much, and you can do that. But my monthly lines usually always come from fair value gaps. And so I will chart them as such. And I will acknowledge this little fair value gap right here under the current under last week's candle, because in 45 minutes we'll get a new candle. So this fair value gap will stay here, okay? So I will acknowledge it. It's super tiny, so I don't really care as much about the bottom of it. I care to see if it's going to break through this level period. Is kind of where this level is going. My mindset is going for this one because it's so tiny. And if you need to put something like monthly tiny fair value gap just to open, I just want to see how price bounces do it because it's tiny. That's fine. And then we come down here a little bit lower, and I am going to square off the open and close of the next support fair value gap. Okay, I am going to square that off. All right, for monthly, and I will label accordingly. Monthly fair value gap close and monthly fair value gap open. Hold on 1 second, guys. All right, sorry guys, I had to uh acknowledge my daughter quickly. She always trying to hustle me out of something. I'm telling you these children, I'm telling you. All right. So I'm waiting on you, Jay, to send a request. So open and close on the monthly fair value gap. All right. And then from there, I'm going to leave it. I'm going to come down to the weekly and I'm going to acknowledge the all-time high, right? I am going to acknowledge the all-time high as a red resistance. And you can just put ATH all-time high right there. Okay. And then from the weekly, I'm going to acknowledge this weekly fair value gap below. Now, this little tiny one, because it's below my monthly one, I'm not going to worry about that one as much in this case. I'm going to worry about the one that has clear kids left in it. That's the one I'm going to worry about. And I'm going to acknowledge it as such. So I'm not surprised if price really comes back down here. So I'm going to say weekly fair value gap open with kids. All right. And then the weekly fair value gap close. All right. So I'm going to acknowledge that and be done for support. All right. That's all the support that I need. Okay. As price comes down for the whole week. So hold on one moment. All right. So then we come down to the daily, and I am going to acknowledge this daily fair value gap. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to, because it's not full and it bounced off of it, right? And it's leading to the opening of a physical, like low bass gap. I know there's a little wick here, but it's physical gap on ES, which ES does not prefer to have gaps. I'm going to acknowledge the top and the bottom of it, right? Because of that reason. And I can acknowledge the top of it purple if you want for it to acknowledge that's a gap opening. And then the close of it green, sometimes I inverse that, but whatever works, whatever I'm feeling for that day. All right. And so as long as you know what it is for your charts, okay? So this would be the daily fair value gap open at the top here, 51.53. Okay. And then the close / physical gap open, however you want to label trader's choice, 50.79. Daily. So I'm gonna go gap open, fair value gap, close. Like whatever works, y'all. Okay. One of those type of situations. And then like this could be the gap close. Daily gap close. Okay. Boom. Perfect for the daily. And that's all the way down there. Current prices up here. Here we are. So now I'm coming up to the 2 hour because these two fair value gaps up here, because we have exit wound wick action going on, where that means a wick came through and pierced through to the other side of the fair value gap, kind of like an exit wound. And we are going to go down to the 2 hour because of that before we mark anything up. So from the 2 hour, we can clearly see where we're finishing up some fair value gaps, and where we're going to potentially continue and close more to the upside, because we have a lot of support mapped out at the bottom, a lot. Because if we look at the 2 hour bottom, it's very choppy, and only in the fair value gaps have a lot of wicks that have been the wick is all the way through, meaning, and we have an exit one. Give me 1 second, hold on. All right. And then all right. So we clearly see that we have 52.92. We have two fair value gap closes here. So the first one, but the reason why I care more about the 52.92 is because of how close these two are. So for me personally, I don't see the need to mark both because they're so close to each other. I just want when it closes it. And then we have the top of the candle body close as well, 5301 to 5300 can be a psychological number target that you can go for. Give me a second. Good job, Jay. So your target is going to be somewhere in this area. From there, if you mark the next few fair value gaps, we are here. And then the next 2 hour one is coming up higher. Hold on. Let me move this line up there. 53.15. And then how you want to mark these two is trader's choice, because the distance is a little bit greater here, but just by a little bit. So most likely when price comes through here, it will probably want to take out both of these. But just in case it stalls on you, you can mark 1 and then 2. Now for this second one, the way I would do it is I would just mark this as a 2-hour fair value gap close. And this as a, give me a second, guys. I'm like really juggling my daughter this evening. Hold on with one moment. All right. So I will mark this as a 2-hour fair value gap close. And then I will mark this lower one, the 53.21 or 53, yeah, as a fair value gap close as well. And I'll just have those two because of open to close out. It's just how you want to see the lines on the chart. Okay. For me, when I know they're pretty close, price usually comes through them. So the closest one is probably gonna come up and close the other as I switch through time zones. Oops, fair value gap. And 2-hour fair value gap open. And then we keep coming down, coming down, coming down. Now, this one in particular, we have a wick that has already breached through the 5307 fair value gap. There is no body into it, right? But we know we have 2 other fair value gaps above it. Now, we're going to be very, very careful because, yes, we know we have the 2 above it, but prices don't have to go that high, especially if we zoom back out and look at the daily. So, we're going to acknowledge it here, but we know that this wick has already come through it. So price could most likely come up to the candle body close. Let me zoom in here a little bit. So let's mark this one as this 2-hour fair value gap close. All right. All right. And then let's acknowledge the candlestick. So this, here we go on the candlesticks a little bit. And this is it's pretty close to a tweezer top or doji evening candle, hammer candle, but either way, even star there and price coming down. So we acknowledge this pattern as a reversal, right? And price will come up and finish, like I said, 5302, 5300 as a psychological number of a target, especially since we're currently feeling, and I would say this is current. It's current because it just stopped on Friday. But we all know that price is going to finish out this fair value gap, especially after it's gone this far. So we just have to wait on the rest. As soon as the market comes on, I'm going to try to jump in for the rest. Okay. So price is going to come up here and knock this out. When it knocks this out, it tests 5302. So the tweezer. And the fair value gap below it, just in case you want to be modest and take profit sooner than that, because you know you'll get a bounce at the close, right? Boom. So that's your top side in totality. All right. Now, I do, and I do see, and we can acknowledge this lower fair value gap closing at 52.31, really close to current price, because current price closed at 52.55. All right. We do have a kid left in it in this fair value gap, and it's very small. Because it is very small, it really has the potential over tonight, tomorrow, whenever it feels like doing it, to wick either through here, put a body through here, jump up and down, and do a headstand on here. I don't know what pattern is going to 100% give, but you see it. So these are all price comes. So if you are looking for a better entry, I would probably take an entry no further than 52.31 to head back up. If you're gonna do something and you wanted like more money out of this move, price will come down to 52.31. You get in, you go long, and you come up and you close at 52.92 for $60. All right, that's doing a damn thing for sure. Okay, just like that. For my futures traders, everybody good? So do I stay on the 2 hour time frame or drop down to 15-minute when monitoring your trades after executing? That's a great question, Gene. I stay usually between the 15-minute and the 2 hour after executing. I look at the 15-minute for what is drawing, and then I check the 2 hour to ensure I don't lose my mind and press the button too soon. Right? It's the 2 hours a stronger time frame. Does that make sense? So, yeah. And sometimes a 3 minute, but very rarely. Okay. So 15-minute is, yeah, after executing. Yeah. Yep, I do. You're right on it. All right. So I love this move on ES. This is my next great move for ES. I think he'll come up and do that just fine. If we come out to the daily and look at where we're going, where that 2 hour close is. You see how it's all up in this wicks? So this is why you want to be very cautious. Like we want to really take it to that first target. All right, boom here, and then be out of the way. As far as coming up to the upside. All right. Because if price doesn't want to stay up, it doesn't have to stay up. Based on how the daily looks. Daily is even our stronger time frame, right? So now that we have all this charted and we look at our daily, we're like, oh, okay, price can run up here, boom, hit its head again, and then turn around and then continue to run down and do a choppy dance and all of that stuff. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay. Appreciate y'all patience. Um, All right. So we noticed that from the daily perspective, price will only come up about the 2 hour. And then, like I said, we'll can chop around and then come back down. Okay. So knowing just how this is kind of forming like a head and shoulder. So we'll see if it wants to give us a reversal, it'll give us a reversal and come up. Okay. All right. Next, we'll move on to SPY and take a look at how SPY is lining up with everything. All right. So for SPY, we'll start from the weekly since we know it has similar monthly lines, right? Okay. The monthly is, well, now that I peeped it, this is why you look. This is why you always press the button to look. Like, when you think you're gonna cut corners, no, you're not. All right, because I like the way that monthly is probably gonna come up in this area. All right, so let's look at it. So for SPY, we will do this fair value gap 512. And it's tiny, so I'm kind of, but it's $2. So that's what makes me want. It's tiny, but it's not that tiny. Like one of those subjective type of things, depending on how you see it. Okay, please. Of course, we'll take the bigger one because that's what we did on ES at 504 to 491. Okay, that's coming through that monthly at 491. So let me label this. Wrong button, Randy. All right. Oops. Monthly. And monthly fair value got closed at 491. And then for the sake of writing, let me see how it's gonna look. 512, fair value gap monthly, excuse me. Fair value gap open. So same thing, guys. Same thing, same thing. Will this be overlapping? I think it'll be all right. Let's do monthly fair value gap close. That $2, because I feel like it would do that $2 in a day. I know it's a monthly, but it's like $2 and we know how SPY moves. So that's the reason why I'm acknowledging it like this. If that makes sense, hopefully I'm following. You guys are following me with that. Of course, we'll come in here to the weekly. Yeah, see, that's that gap right there. So then that would be perfect because I could totally see SPY doing that. So this is why I acknowledged it. So for the all-time high, of course, 524. And then we'll come down to the day. Do I want to acknowledge this little fair value gap here? From the SPY perspective? Let's do it and see what happens on a daily. We can always remove it if it looks too crowded. Maybe put it on there rather than not. So because this week we'll start a new candle, you know what I mean? So I know it has a wick all the way through, but it could be a significant level of support when we drop down to the daily. So this is the reason why I'm acknowledging it. Uh, that it is a fair value gap right there. So let's see how it plays out. So we'll weekly fair value gap open at 518 with the close being right under that. Now this one I'll just keep it solid. 517, it's just $1. Now we come to the daily and it looks like this. I had a feeling. So because the way these two candles look as well, this from the daily perspective could be a harami, a bullish harami at that. All right. So these two candles right here is a bullish harami, meaning price will go up next and it will be confirmed if the next daily candle, tomorrow's candle, will be in fact bullish. Will it be bullish? Chances are high. We just traded the futures and futures look like it was pushing up, right? So filling the fair value gap. So don't be surprised if it either gaps up in the morning, right? Because we close it overnight, or it runs up and does the rest of this like fair value gap here from the daily perspective on SPY. So the daily fair value gap close, which will be from a resistance perspective, in this case at 522. It will be a daily fair value gap close. We'll make it red for resistance. All right. And boom, bam, pow, there you go. Okay. Now, so that means price can come back up here, clear all this liquidity, and then figure out again, same case, like I said, with futures, is they can bounce around or come down. We have a gap here right now. Look at the daily perspective. So in between this monthly open and close, I am going to put a purple line here, purple dotted line for a daily gap opening. Okay. And I'm going to do that because it's a physical Globex gap that's creating somewhat the cause of the monthly fair value gap, right? And this monthly fair value gap line is at the close of this gap. So all I'm gonna do to not put lines on lines is come in here, edit the line, monthly fair value gap slash daily gap close. As simple as that, right? Don't make it more complicated than it needs to be, guys. Boom. All right. So price comes down and closes this gap on the daily, which again, highly likely with SPY, here we'll be down here at 510. Okay. All right. So that's SPY and ES. We can also take a look at the other tickers and do like a quick chart of the other futures tickers, a quick chart of the Dow futures and the NASDAQ futures, right? Just to get an overview of this market and review how it moved from last week and what we're looking at into tomorrow, right? To set us up. And then from there, we will look at whatever other tickers you guys want to start us off with this evening as far as stocks go. All right. So we have the Dow. We can remove the indicators and peek at the monthly to see how this first week of the month ended out for us. Right. And most of the monthly fair value gap is like further down from current price. But we can acknowledge it because it is the neckline of this larger monthly pattern. And so we wouldn't be surprised if price were to come back down. Okay, and it'll probably come all the way through here. I know this is two fair value gaps here. We can't acknowledge this because it is a monthly perspective that this little break in between could cause a little bit of stutter. But again, when things are really close, when the two fair value gaps are really close like that, price usually tends to fall straight through with little hesitation. Okay, just keep that in mind. All right. And then I'm gonna acknowledge the all-time high, and I'm gonna come down to the daily and chart the down from the daily perspective. Let's just skip the weekly because I'm not really actively trading it. Now, if I was trading it, I would do the weekly, but I just want to keep an overview of what the overall chart is doing in comparison to the S&P 500. That's really all I need it for. But if you are going to trade it, of course, you're going to take those additional steps and you're going to go in there, you're going to chart the weekly fair value gaps that you find. Okay. So we do have a daily fair value gap close down here. And price wanted to somehow mosey its way all the way back down there. It does look like it's been turning. We have a nice little M pattern at the top. Price did break down to retest the neckline. And so it can, in fact, come further down. So it wouldn't be surprised if it came back and tested the top of this fair value gap at 38,485. Okay. And of course, it has gaps up at the top for resistance. We have a few in alignment with fair value gaps, right? All the way up to 4104. All right. But I don't believe we would have to break through this gap opening. I can make this one purple actually at 39,802. All right, we'll have to tap it back in there because the lower, meaning the fair value gap below that level, as you can see, has a candle wick all the way through to the other side. Acknowledge that price may not come back up there for a minute. And so downward pressure is among us, I feel like, when you look at the Dow. And then when you look at the NASDAQ, there is a similar sentiment here. Just from looking at the candlesticks, you get that vibe. Coming out to the monthly, you see here that dribble off the neckline that we're doing. Okay. And this is a very small little monthly fair value gap. So see, when you scrunch it up how close it is. So that one's too small. Like I said, it's subjective. You're going to have to practice and play with it to figure out what you like. But for now, just acknowledge these two, oops, fair value gaps that are small here on the NASDAQ price. Of course, is all the way up there. We can acknowledge the all-time high as well, 18,681. And price can dribble because I see totally like the whole cup and handle pattern and it dribbling a little bit more before it breaks up again. Totally see that happening just with charting that. I don't really need to put much else because I can see it. And then we come down to the daily and we can look at all these other little levels to help us predict how it's going to come down here. But we immediately see that the fair value gap did not close all the way, but there's also a physical gap above it. I mean, below it, excuse me. And here we are. All right, the open and the close of that gap. All right, so up again, price can come down, test this in this area, and then come down even further because all of this has been wicked through quite a bit to this lower gap. I'll make it purple just so you guys know which gap I'm talking about. Down here, 17,678. All right, and we see this rounding pattern overall, right? So again, wouldn't be surprised. And of course, price does not have to break down. The price does not break down past 17,948. Then of course we potentially stay up, chop for another 40 days or 40 nights, whatever the stock market is preparing to do. All right. All right. So now that we have an overview of the futures market, what stock tickers, of course, and go down a watch list and make it easy. But if there's anything burning your heart desire that you really want to talk about tonight, just drop it in the chat. All right. All right. Oh, I found the gecko that's been in my house. That's funny. Okay. He just showed up. Awesome songs. Right in my face, right during my call. Got a little Florida living, y'all. All right. Let's start with Disney since Disney was in the headlines. Okay. We'll do a clean chart. I did exit Disney with this pullback here. And come from the weekly perspective, I'll rechart. Okay. The monthly, there's a lot going on. It's coming all the way up to close this monthly fair value gap. There's a lot of data for Disney to recover. All right. Up here, which I would love to see it do, is going to spend $6 billion on theme park. Come on, Disney, make this ticker rise. Excuse me, this needs to be red. Monthly fair value gap close. This is my target. All right. This is why I was betting on Disney. And the news came in right on time, but the news came in a way that I could, or what happened last week came in a way where I can reposition for a better and whole. I probably could just scale it and leverage, but I took my small loss before it got worse, not knowing what could happen. So I don't feel really bad about that. Of course, we have support fair value gaps here. This one's a little wider. Ooh, so we'll take the top and the bottom of it. All right. We'll take the top and the bottom of it and go from there. I'll leave it tight because I know we're pretty much coming up. If you guys see the pattern and you guys have been studying your candlesticks, right? And you know that this is like a cradle pattern or like a cup and handle that's forming. And it's the reason why I see it as a handle is the reason why I got out because I don't know how long it wants to chop before I actually take it. So I decided to reposition and not hold over the weekend and have theta, excuse me, eat away at me. So I said I will just reposition. All right, coming down to the weekly, you see that it is also closing a weekly fair value gap with kids that were left in it as well. So with that, again, is why I'm betting on Disney. All right. And of course, I can acknowledge the open if you want to. You know that the candlesticks are already through it. That's trader's choice. Or you can leave the chart clean as you come down to the daily. Now, one thing I would acknowledge is below here that there are kids left down here. There's a little bit of chaperone, so it's not too much of a concern. But if you want to acknowledge it, you can. Of course, coming up close to the current price, you have a physical gap on the weekly that this monthly line is piercing right through. So you can acknowledge this, you just like this, and purple solid line called weekly. How's that looking? That's the gap open. So weekly gap open. Right, for a physical gap opening down. And then I have that monthly line at 116, right? And this was a monthly choop, 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 choop. And monthly fair value gap open, right? So, and you can, again, and it's not really the close of this weekly. So it's up to you, again, trader's choice, and how many lines you want on your chart to put another line right there. To me, it's a little close. I feel like I could probably find something on the daily that could go along with it. But that's just me, okay? And but come down to the daily, looking at what I have so far. Of course, we know we want price to continue up from the daily perspective. It's heading down, and it can continue down, right, into this gap a little bit. We do have a daily fair value gap, right? Right here. We'll do a dashed line, open to close, the close being 115. So a price were to come through there, of course, it can continue down, but the space between these two fair value gaps is quite large, and that will be coming through the monthly fair value gap all the way. So we'll see if price wants to do that. This wick will be saving us here as well. Okay, it's in alignment with the fair value gap closing at 515.20 and 23 cents. So we'll see what type of pattern, if this can hold up right here or it strikes down, whatever it may do, before turning back around and finishing out, of course, the weekly and monthly fair value gap to the upside, because I do think that's what it overall is trying to do. It just has pullbacks that it has to do. Okay. And of course, we have this large gap further down. But until I break through 515, I'm not too worried about it. All right. And of course, price will have to break back up above 123 before it can continue up. I'm just kind of waiting right now with Disney. Excuse me, y'all. All right. Not really any daily moves with Disney. Disney move too slow to day trade. You got to really kind of swing this one or hold it for at least a day or two and let it get up to a certain point and then take profit. All right. SOXL, Karen, no problem. And then I'll do Apple just to look at it since it was in the news. Okay. And I can switch over to some Forex since we have 10 minutes before they come on, right? And I want to focus on what the people want. So let's look at XOXL. Let's remove the drawings. Let's do it. All right. So XOXL, we have top-down analysis from the monthly, right? This little candle doji right here, the close of March, wicked through and left an exit wound, right? So price is kind of dribbling along, dribble, 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 dribble at the neckline, trying to most likely get above to the rest of this candle close on the monthly here high at $68. All right. I do think it'll get there. How long will it take? I have no idea. I do think that's the overall direction on the goal. $69. All right. So that would be, I would label that as like monthly, like evening stars, the evening star pattern here. The top of it, right? And then coming down at the bottom, we don't really have any fair value gaps. You're like, what do I do? What do I do? This is where you need to study the candlestick patterns, folks. All right, we do have this little tiny one. Of course, you can acknowledge it. Yay, you did something great. It's a starting point. It's not the worst thing. We're gonna have to come down, I think, because we could acknowledge like the small breakouts of these candles. We could. but I think it's better if we come down because we are on a very, very, very high time frame. I do want to acknowledge before I leave this time frame, the top of this fair value gap here, just to acknowledge that that price wicked through that high and, it's come down and probably going to play around before it comes back up there. So that's going to be 55.38, and I'll make that red, and I'll call that monthly, kind of like previous. I don't know if I have to use the word previous because this is because it's already been wicked through, but monthly fair value gap close because we would have to put a body through that, right? In order to really close that off. And I think we will do that. So let's see. From there, we're going to come down to weekly. Weekly, as you can see, dribbling around, bob and weaving, bob and weaving. We wicked all the way through as well the weekly fair value gap, right? We wicked through that as well. But we left a little bit of wick above here. We came right up under this other candle. So we took quite a hit down. If we would have wicked over, we probably wouldn't have went down as far. Maybe, maybe not. It just depends. But overall, we pulled back, right? We pulled back. And then once we pulled back, we are kind of stalled. Like this gap down here caught us. We didn't proceed or close beyond this lower gap. If you guys can see, this gap is what I'm talking about right here at 40. This is a weekly gap. Okay, so we change it green and we can call it a weekly gap close. All right. Not fair value gap, just a regular gap because here was the opening and we bounced off of it. So when we get in close, I want you guys to see it. So make it purple. All right. Weekly gap. Manager for when we come into a lower time frame. Weekly gap. Opening. Open. All right. And you can see that there is a gap in between the price here and all these wicks, right? But I want to look at that on the daily. Okay. I want to look at that on the daily. So let's come down to the daily and let's see how price. Again, you can tell price has been going pretty sideways with XOXL. All right, past couple days, it's been very difficult to trade. Trust me, because I've tried. And made a little wins, gave a little back. It's a sticky spot to be in. Okay, waiting on price to kind of do its move here. And so as you can see, this weekly gap open and close has definitely been, strike through with some decent candles bodies left through it as well, to be honest with you. So it may not want to come all the way back down here. It could though, because we do have a larger daily gap, right? This larger daily gap that the weekly gap close is kind of the opening of it. But the daily gap close is right at $36, $36.10 to be exact. And this would be a daily gap close if price were to come back beyond the 40 and come down. Now, when we look there, let's label it right quick. All right. When we look and pay close attention within this area, zoom in close for you guys that have bad eyes like me, you see that you have another physical gap within this larger gap. Gaps on gaps cause problems for price action to really close a gap. So I will make these two inner lines purple for you, as it's a gap within a gap. Okay, and I can label it. Now, in situations like this, you get creative with your labeling. You can do inner gap, like inner gap open. Heh. Yeah, sure, let's go with that. And inner gap close. Sure, why not? Inner gap close. All right, boom. Now, we'll know that if price for the first come break beyond 40, it may get stopped at 38, but may potentially get stopped again at 37. If it keeps coming, it got to go 36. It just has all of these levels of bounce. Okay. And then of course, to the upside, we have the daily fair value gap close to the upsides. Fair value gap in this case. Lots of fun trickery to the chart. right? This week, right? With all the different gaps and fair value gaps and gaps, fair value gaps. And candlestick patterns, daily fair value gap close. All right, 52.18, the daily fair value gap close. That's where it's at. And we will potentially come back up this way because we did leave a wick that was higher than the previous close up above here into this fair value gap. So I am betting more on the upside versus the downside, as I do believe these physical gaps can hold price up, especially since within the past few days, the low has gotten a little bit higher. Now, I can't speak too soon. This week can turn around and do something crazy, but that's where I'm at right now. Okay. So it is a trading range here with XOXL. You're going to come in, you're going to take a couple dollars, you're probably going to get out. I think overall, if I zoom out nicely, it's forming its next breakout. I do think the breakout will be most likely to the upside, but not before giving us a wild ride in the interim. All right. Because it is a consolidating right now. All right. Apple was in the headlines. Apple may do this and see Apple may do a lot of nothing. Apple just y'all know. Oh, y'all probably tired of me. Like Randy just stopped. I know, right? All right. So I really do still believe put to the best play right now. It's stalling a little bit, which is why I haven't aggressively jumped in yet. But I believe that it can come down. It may need to come down, and then once it comes all the way down here, Apple will actually come out with something exciting for us to get excited about. That'll shoot it back up to the top. I'm betting on that. That's what I'm betting on. So this is a monthly fair value gap, open and close. I will take both in this case. I would say probably a general rule, like it's more than $2, then you probably should square it off. $2 or more. Because it doesn't look so congested on your chart. Monthly fair value gap open and monthly fair value gap close. All right. 6 o'clock. Okay. And then we have the monthly resistance one right here. And from 172, excuse me, to 179. Open. And we know this chart has a bunch of chop in it. Like we already know. It's just ridiculous Apple here. It's just because I'm only saying that because I wanted the upside. Let's just be very clear and be admit to the fact of why I have salty shade for it. All right, yeah, close. Because I was hopeful for you to go the other way. And you were just like, nah, cuz. So I just want you to bottom out. But here we are from the weekly perspective now, right? And we see this weekly physical gap, which I would assume at some point price will need to come back for Apple need to make holograms come out their phones and then the stock will go up. I need Apple to do some fire shit, something like cool, like just something. I don't know. Just something has to happen with these phones now. Everything's played out. So this weekly, that's not, let me relay that. Should not say fair value. You got that was out of habit, y'all. But see, I caught myself. Just a gap open. There we go. All right. And then at the close of it, pretty much aligns with the monthly fair value gap close. So we can leave that there. And we can leave our support down here because we don't have any other fair value gaps. We can come down to the daily. And the daily is where things get a little tricky and sticky. All right, because it's like, how do I hold this thing? And that's why I'm like, I'm not holding it because I don't know how to hold it, so I'm just not holding it. All right, because I'd much rather wait for a better entry. I don't know if Apple won't potentially make a curve here or it's going to fall down. I believe from the larger time frame, it looks like it wants to fall, but I don't know when it's ready yet, and I'm just kind of waiting. Okay, I'm just kind of waiting. To me, that news didn't help at all from this situation. And we have very, very small candles. And that's pretty much what I got to say about Apple. All right. The 2 hour doesn't really help me much either. It has lower pressure. Like I said, I already felt that. But again, when does it want to do it? Not giving me great signals on that right now. You can strangle it. That may be a way to go. And then whichever side it begins to break out, you close your other side and double down on your winning side. That's maybe one way to take Apple as an options trade. Okay, straddle, strangle it, anyone. All right. Any other tickers on the stock market side before we flip into Forex side? Microsoft for homework or what you want to trade next week. This is all for you guys and what you may want to trade next week. As a group, if you want to look at it as a group and put it on, we can bring it on. If not, you know, we don't have to. All right. Microsoft has an upward trend overall. This is the top-down analysis we'll do. It has a weekly, excuse me, we're on a monthly. We have a monthly fair value gap at 397. Okay. And if I'm not mistaken, I thought I saw a little small monthly physical gap in there. I did right here. So with that, we're going to leave that line purple. We're going to change the label to just gap open. And then Microsoft Cat and Ford. Okay. And then we're going to do a fair value gap open on as a green line. Right. And acknowledge that it's going to be a monthly fair value gap open / gap close. And then we have the monthly fair value gap close. Right? Boom. And then we even have this little physical gap right here. Let me stop playing. All the way up here where current price is. I'm gonna call this a monthly. I know this wick, we wick through it, but I feel like we can turn around and do like a evening star potential looking pattern, or even just the next candle just look like it's about to be red, potentially stagnation. Could be wrong. Would love to be wrong. Either way, I think we can get a wick through here. So I just want to acknowledge this as potential support, to be honest with you, in some way, shape, or form. So I'm gonna just call it the monthly gap close and see what happens on the daily and weekly as we look at this for the week. Monthly gap. Oops. Spell it right, Randy. All right. And then all-time high, of course, 431. I'm pretty sure it was an all-time high for Microsoft, right? Pretty positive on that. Yeah. All right. And here we are. So weekly. All right. Microsoft looks like it potentially may want to break up and out of this little order block that it has created for itself. No fair value gaps really chart from this perspective since we have a bunch of monthly lines giving us a nice little trading range. Then we come down to the daily in this case, because I don't want to over chart my chart. And I see that we have, lows getting a bit higher here as price is starting to snake up and create another like handle, I guess you would say, for this kind of looking ugly gap tooth cup and handle looking pattern. It does have a daily physical Globex gap between 407 and 404. as a daily gap, right? This is purple for open. Do it like that. But that's if price can break down below where it's at. So it would need to come below like 417 to be honest with you before we can consider that. Even again 413 before we can come low. And it's really a choppy looking pattern right now. So we'll just kind of wait for Microsoft to give us a little better signal that it's going to break up. Of course, we have a gap to the upside as well. There's a lot of gap, small candles in this chop. Gap right there. It did wick close it, but we didn't put a body through it. If we want to come back up to 428 to retest high 431 and break through the high, of course, we can do that. If we were to break through Fibonacci, because I feel like, I'm not too sure how Microsoft moves for day trades. So I'll go ahead and do this from the daily. The low to the high here. So if price were to continue up from Fibonacci perspective and break the high and continue on, you'll be looking at 438 onward to 447, the next 50%. Okay. For Microsoft. Caterpillar. Let me take a look at futures right quick. And put an alert right here. And so I won't miss out on my own money. Okay. So Caterpillar from the monthly perspective been going nothing but up. And this is the current monthly candle. So I'm not going to put a line right there. I'm going to put one underneath at the close of 334 area. And of course, I do believe that if price came back down here, it will want this whole thing quite viciously. That's if it did. So I'll mark the lower one too. It'll come straight through. So I'm just gonna label them, excuse me, as monthly fair value gap close and monthly fair value gap close. So monthly fair value gap close. For cat. And then this lower one is monthly fair value gap close as well. Oop. All right. And then we have an all-time high. So I'll come to see, can I get on a weekly, daily, any pullback here? Okay, I guess I'll just mark it on the weekly. So do all-time high from the weekly perspective. And again, the weekly fair value gap closer to current price at 355. And down here, 346. So this one is, again, in line with another physical gap. So you can just label it as so like, if you want to do the fair value gap close, put it at the bottom of the candle. You can label it like, so one option, since they're so close, you can say like monthly, fair value gap close slash gap open, right? Like we've been doing. Just keep up the same trend and keep it going, keep it going. All right. And then of course the close that weekly, excuse me. This will be a weekly. Lord have mercy. Randy, on the brain today. Does it have a lunar brain because of the total eclipse? That's what's going on. Becoming a lunatic. I don't know. Everybody that's close to me thinks I'm a little, just a little crazy, just a little cuckoo. It's okay. I'm good with it. Keeps me profitable. Crazy, the superpower. All right. Monthly, weekly. Stop saying that, Randy. Weekly fair value gap close on the weekly. All right, boom. Nice. Then daily, we have all these support levels. All right. Coming up close to the current price, the daily has a fair value gap right here starting at 368. So we would just literally If you want to acknowledge all of this, you can. It's going to be a lot of lines. I'm just keeping it real with you because price is really just moving upward overall. But to acknowledge short-term pullbacks where price will go as a better entry for price to continue upward, you will acknowledge these daily fair value gaps, and those can be entry points for you to take price back up in this case because price is running a lot with no real good turnaround in sight. Now on the 2 hour, it kind of looks like it's forming an M. Okay, if you want a day trade cat, it does have a nice pullback down. So this is why I wanted to come into the 2 hour and not try to too many lines on the daily because it is a little choppy. We can day trade cat just fine. So if price is turning around right here, we have this daily fair value gap. 2 hour fair value gap that is from open to close. 2 hour fair value gap, right? 2 hour. From 378 to 370. That includes a physical gap on the 2 hour. So I believe price will really come down for this with CAT because of the physical gap within it on the smaller time frame, and it can be easily done in a day. CAT moves about what, $6 a day, $7 a day ATR. So for it to move and fill this 2 hour fair value gap, which is $7, is highly likely in one day. So that can be a great cat trade for a put side for price to come down here. Now, we are aware that there is, because it is a physical gap, we want to acknowledge that physical gap, and we may want to just take profit at that physical gap opening at 372. All right. It'll leave about $2 on the table, but it is safe and conservative. Like, let's make it perfect. There. All right. Keep it conservative. If you know CAT well enough and know that this is going to close all the way through, then you, of course, you could take your green line and move it down to where the body of the candle is down here at the close at 370. Okay. And get the full $8 run. All right. If you have the conviction that Caterpillar is going to do the damn thing for you. Okay. And not bounce off any of these levels and come back up. Now, we're going to dissect this long candle just to ensure that we are not getting excited about the move. And the 15-minute, and we're coming down to the 15-minute, we're going to look for any potential breaks, stutters, or anything in that long candle, and we do find them. All right. Right here, we have two order blocks, one right on top of the other, or you can consider this as one interesting, longer one, bigger one, or whatever. Okay. So price gets choppy coming up through here. What we want to acknowledge is first and foremost, that 2 hour fair value gap opening at 378, right, is right in alignment with the close of the 15-minute fair value gap close. So we definitely know prices can come down here and bounce off of this level. It is supported by a nice little thick order block, so that's cool. But we know that if price wanted to, for a reason, continue up and not break down further, these is going to be the reason why these two things, the fair value gap and the order block here. Okay. Of course, right on the other side of that order block, excuse me, today, we have another fair value gap at 376. That's why on the other side of the order block is another fair value gap at 376. Shoot. And then, of course, we're not going to forget that there are kids left in the fair value gap here at 375 from the 15-minute perspective, okay? So it's just on the 15 perspective. We do know we have a gap on the 2 hour. It could be a nice slide down, okay? This is all the levels that we have dissected through there as it comes down. So we know that we do have some forces, I would say, some forces pulling price back down this way. Kids in a fair value gap, a physical gap. This physical gap does align on the 2 hour and the 15 minutes. So that is more confluence that price could come down this way, but that physical gap aligning. So, and of course, it looks like a nice big M looking pattern coming our way. All right. How long it takes, the time, if CAT decides to do some interesting stalling, then that's how the cookie crumbles, you guys, but at least you know why. All right, because you found some levels in there. All right, that's CAT. Okay. Now, and then we could do a fib extension on this. All right. So from here, we can start. Let's do it from a 2 hour. come back at 2 hour and do the fib extension because we do like the day trade cat. So for Fibonacci on cat, the low, I love this dip on the 2 hour. I love this little dip right here. That's between like April 2nd and April 3rd. Okay. The bottom of this dip, if I were to take the wick, I'll be taking the April 2nd, 9:30 candle, and I'll be pulling my Fibonacci up to the April 4th, 11:30 time candle, okay? And this would be my fib. I love this. You can even bring it closer and do the little M dip right here if you wanted to, but I like this a little bit better because it puts the gap at the 50%, which is where I think price could potentially stay and chop back up if it wanted to, right? It'll come down and definitely eat this liquidity and then come back up. So if it came back up, your first target out of the fib would be the 386. And of course, if it continues to that negative 50, you're at 391 for Caterpillar. So 381 to 379 is where price goes to 391. About a $10 move. That can definitely happen within a week for Caterpillar. So just keep that in mind. All right. You don't have to hold it very long, like 1 or 2 days, and be out of the trade. All right. I'm gonna skip over forward for now, and then I'm gonna go to look at Forex and futures and look at some of this night trading. This 619. Bleh, and see what is going on. All right. And then we can hit forward a little later because it's not like my go-to one, but we look at it. But the fact that it is kind of doing some moves, it is moving. All right. So USD JPY for you Forex lovers in the house. And if we look at the monthly, which I don't really do as much with Forex, just kind of stick to weekly because how it moves currency pairs are a little different. But let's take a peek at it, right? And let's look at the monthly Konichiwa all the way back here in dinosaur land, where the Japanese yen can come back to. All right. It can come back a lot, like a whole lot. And so, oh man, and if it's trying, I am going to take it all the way up in the ride. Okay. But this is what the monthly is looking like. Okay. Coming down to the weekly, kind of where we left off and where we're going. These are my lines from last week. Not much has changed too much. Okay. As we, are starting off for slow. And we see that from the daily, we are just kind of chomping around here in that still flag pattern that I want so badly to be out of, but it's just taking its precious time to get me out of. Okay. For the break, but it does look like it's potentially going to break where to the upside, and it has influence from the weekly and the monthly, like you guys just saw. So, of course, you can go ahead and position yourself for the long-term haul on USD JPY. Just put yourself in the long. You don't have any contracts on this side of the asset classes of how to trade, so it is very easy to just hold it through. And then once we break out and really leave this area, then maybe, just maybe, we'll come back and address these kids left in the daily fair value gap. But until then, we are just going to wait for the move. Okay. All right. All right. All right. USD Euro was another one we was looking at last week a little bit. I'll go through a few of these tickers and then we'll go back to the futures. We had a few levels just looking at it from the daily that we could come up to. And then looking at it from the monthly here, we see how the euro does have, again, a lot of recovery. Pull all the way back here. Look at it. Bird's eye view. Okay. The euro can come up and do some interesting things from 84 if it wanted to. Don't know about that. But we can definitely push up into at least this first fair value gap on the monthly, right? We can at least do that. We'll take it one step at a time. And we can acknowledge that like we always would, right? And if it bounces around, it kind of looks like it is curving up here, curving up in a way that it can come up. So we will have to really just keep an eye on how it's bouncing around here. That's not bad. And if you zoom in closer here, you can see how there's a tiny fair value gap month on the monthly has wicks that's putting multiple wick in here. Okay. And so we're going to need it to most likely close it. It's small, at least wick through the other side. Especially since it looks like it's curving to the upside and it wick through the bottom ones here. Oh, we do have 2 kids left in the lower fair value gap on the monthly here though. All right. But again, the overall pattern looks like it's trying to leave this area. So we'll see if we can, find support from this area. So we'll see if we actually dip down further. Going into the weekly view, we can see how it's very, very choppy. So if you're going for that monthly close, and we see the weekly has kids left in it within that monthly. So again, you have a lot of room to come up there, but it has to get there. This ticker moves very slow. I don't love trading it because it moves very slow to me. And it's just the small candles. But there's pips to be made. And if you're willing to swing it, I do think it has some good swing potential. Of course, on the daily, it has some great moves too within the chop. As you can see, there's fair value gaps around close, and that's the previous lines that I had marked here. Okay. All right. So price is trying to come back up that way. It's just going to be a bit of a bumpy ride as we have all these daily fair value gaps. All right. And then, of course, this daily fair value gap down here at the bottom at 0.96, that's support if it were to come back. But I doubt it because it already tried to come back and it bounced off and took further to the upside. And then, of course, you see here how prices already gave us a strike through wick through this fair value gap here at 0.9210. So it looks like we have some kids left in the daily fair value gap up and price is pushing up at the moment here. So of course you could just take those few pips and be done. If you scale in nicely, it'll be a nice chunk of change. And if you use the right leverage, it'll be an even better chunk of change, right? Depending on what broker you're using to trade Forex, you can leverage that position, that short position with even more money because it's Forex. It's just the way it is, right? It's just the way it is. All right. The British pound, Japanese yen was one that my husband put me on. I ain't gonna lie, it looked real good. But y'all know how I like Japanese yen. This is why it looked real good. So looking at the monthly, looking at, of course, it could recover up even higher. But just looking at the short term, it's doing pretty well. It has, I think, the potential to keep coming up into finishing these monthly fair value gaps here, based on the way that the structure of the candles look. I can chart that and it just looks really, really healthy, right? For it to potentially come up there as a longer term target. I don't have to hold it that long. Of course, I can scale it in and out as it gets there, but gosh, that looks so beautiful from this perspective right here. All right. So that's the monthly fair value gap open at 198 and comes back through there to test that level. Looking at the weekly, it's still holding confluence just with the candlesticks, y'all. Just with the candlesticks, you left kids, you chopped up, you left a lot of things into this lower weekly fair value gap. You are breaking up to the upside. You have given the exit wound candle wicks on the smaller fair value gaps. You are continuing up. It's just not. And then I just got really excited. So I was like, ooh, buddy. So I just did the British pound to the Japanese yen, konnichiwa. Y'all know how I am. So we can just keep, again, waiting for the next breakout though for the daily with the Japanese yen. I would take probably both of them now and see how my capital is for trading both of them. But I love the fact that when this everything about these two charts look like they're about to break up to the upside, break out to the upside with a clear target in mind. And I love that. I just love that so, so, so much. All right, let's wrap up with back to the futures. All right. We'll swing over SPY for tomorrow morning. We'll come back to that and we'll see how the futures is doing to wrap up for the night trade. Of course, if you guys missed it or joined late or had any connection issues, did not hear me the first time when I went over this trade for the night. I will most likely trade this tonight. Okay. So I had said that price will most likely come through here. I don't know when, but knowing what price likes to do, I will most likely enter this by 8 p.m. at the latest. I want to give it a chance to come down and test this 52.41 level again. And then I'll probably have to reset my alert from the 15-minute time frame because it triggered it. I don't want to go that far. Hold on, give me a second. Let's assess this. Okay. Yeah, that'll no. Why did my chart not reset? I hate when it does that. Like something's off and it's like not saving and internet glitch or something. See how he's pulling my line back. Okay, fine. Let me just call it out. So 52.37. So 52.37 would be into that wick. Okay. So that'll be coming in it. So the 52.42 is fine. I don't know why my alert is acting a fool. See if I can take the alert off and the line stays. Yeah, the alert's acting crazy. Okay. So let's see. 15-minute is always more than one way of skin a cat, right? Boom. All right. So that's what I want. Because if price comes down and touches there, I can get in if it's going to continue up to the upside. But if it's not, right, because if it stays like this and this is the pattern, like it would have to really fall here. So from the 15-minute, this is a great little cradle here. So I am going to give it, let me see. If I take the tweezer top, just chalk this out, guys. If I take the tweezer top, I got how much money to the 2-hour close? I got $22. Y'all know me, I'm a little aggressive, so I'm looking for like the more aggressive entry. uh so that's $20 right there. So y'all can literally wait till you get you can put an alert here, 52.71, wait for that break, enter. And of course, that's just more than enough. Like just not be greedy. Okay, that's just more than enough. And then of course it can continue up further, but that's that first 2-hour fair value gap close that we want. So then of course, this is a break that is consistent between, let me see, that consistent on the two. Ooh. All right, so I'm going to acknowledge this. It's because I just saw it. Because this is a consistent line on the 2-hour and 15-minute, I am going to 2-hour and 15-minute fair value gap close like perfectly aligned. Something may happen there. I may take profit there first and get the hell out of Dodge because you remember how like on the daily it's nothing but wick up there. I don't want to overshoot that and it do some dumb like come just close and then just not do it. So I'm gonna be very careful because that's confluence on multiple time frames and you always want to look at that as a signal and a warning that price may turn around. Price is definitely going to get there, but price is going to turn around there. It could be strong, just, things like that. So, yeah, I'm going to shorten. So, even taking that, so it's $22 there. If it comes down and I say I take it when it's on this candle, then I can potentially get, nope, see, being greedy for no reason. So I'll probably be modest and wait because what I'm nervous about is in this particular pattern that it chops a bit in here. So you can take it now and just wait, right? That's like the lowest you're going to get it outside of it dropping down back down here. There is candle wicks in it, I get it, but there's multiples. So it doesn't have to come down there aggressively to try to be like, oh, I'm definitely going to get in down here because this is swooping upward-ish. Price can just close at 52.56 and that's it and continue like climbing up and doing, one of them long climbs. It's like overnight, and we don't have no news tomorrow. It can be a very slow, drawn out move, okay? And just putting that out there. Or it could be fast and just because it wants to. So with that in mind, I want to Let me measure again. If I get in now and hold it up, then I get $30. That's what I want. I want to try to get close to 30. So I probably can take it now because then if it falls, then I'm only falling through a 15, 20. And when it really needs to break 52.41 to really be falling down here. So you have to just I'm spitting out every like risk and everything that should be on your mind and like how you want to hold it so you won't exit too early. So if you hold it through, if you enter now and you hold it down and it comes all the way down to 52.31, then you're going to be at a loss of quite a bit, probably equally as much as you can gain if you held it all the way up. So you have to know that and say, do I enter now or do I wait and see if it comes further down and then enter? Um, or if it just breaks up to the upside, I enter from the upside, 52.71, right? Just breaks up, boom. Then I just take the upside and I get my money that way. So looking at that pattern, making that decision, seeing your kids, wicks, and the fair value gap, all of that, you're going to decide when to enter. All right. And I have 2 alerts set. So you can enter down below 52.41, enter there, enter now, and be okay with sitting through whatever it's going to do until it gets to your target or waiting. That's a trader's choice. That's up to you. All right. It's truly a trader's choice. But that is the next night trade that I see on futures. Any other questions about that trade? All right, for future traders tonight. Alrighty, y'all. What is 6:30? If you have any other questions that you want to bring to the crib tonight, any other questions, we watch it on the daily. This is the daily. You guys know daily open and close. It comes down, closes the gap. This is where price left us Friday. I make it blue for you guys. All right, and price is coming down. I'll close that. So don't forget to acknowledge that. And price could stop there and come back up, bounce around. We have a few different candlestick patterns that we can have in this particular daily situation of how this candle can close. Okay, a form, complete form, right? Can you quickly repeat about the alerts? So the alerts I have from the 2-hour perspective would be an alert for it to break up pretty much above this wick on Friday's noon midday candle. Oh, yeah, noon midday candle. If price breaks up there and like truly looks like it's breaking, not just like wicking, but like breaking up and finishing out the fair value gap, I can jump in. I'll have to use the 15-minute to see that. I can jump in and run up and close at 52.85, right? If I don't, and the bottom alert goes off, depending on how the candlesticks form, I can look to enter to go back up and close this because we know this fair value gap is huge and it needs to close. Okay. So that's the reason why we're saying that. So if it comes down and hits my alert at 52.41, I can enter lower and write it up. If it comes even further and clears out the smaller fair value gap down to 52.30, I can enter even lower and come back up. Or you can find a trade while it's falling through this whole thing as well. Like you can trade, you can scalp the alert down and take $10 if you want the quick, okay, it's coming back down for the kids left in this small fair value gap. And when your alert hits 52.41, you can write it down, clear it out. My only hesitation with all of that is it going to move exactly like that, or is it going to bounce off this fair value gap and leave a bunch of wick and you never quite get there the way you want to get there? It's just frustrating get there. It's small, so I believe it'll get there. Even if it bounces, it'll do like a wick bounce through there. I think that's what I honestly believe, you guys. but it's your trading patience and your trading psychology and your confidence in yourself and your confidence in that that you can sit there and watch it, not drive yourself crazy throughout the night and things like that. All right. So there's a few different options you can do with just those two alerts, depending on how you look at it as a trader. All right, guys. Any other questions, concerns? You guys good for this evening? All right, you guys take care. God bless. See you guys on Wednesday for my subscribers, and trade safe. Ciao.